Emma Rodriguez pushed open the glass doors of Pacific Fertility Center, clutching her appointment confirmation in slightly sweaty fingers. At 26, she'd finally decided to get baseline fertility testing done, something her doctor had recommended for future family planning. The morning sun cast long shadows across the marble lobby as she approached the reception desk. "Good morning. I'm Emma Rodriguez, 9 o'clock appointment." The receptionist barely glanced up, fingers flying across her keyboard. "Yes, here you are. Take the elevator to the 3rd floor, suite 305. They're expecting you." Emma thanked her and headed toward the elevators, her comfortable flats quiet on the polished floor. She worked as a kindergarten teacher at Riverside Elementary, a job she adored for its chaos and joy. Her life was simple and fulfilling, a cozy apartment she shared with her cat Milo, evenings spent planning lessons and crafting with construction paper, weekends hiking with friends. Romance hadn't been a priority. She'd dated occasionally but nothing serious. She believed in waiting for marriage, in saving herself for someone who would treasure what she offered. The elevator opened on the 3rd floor. Emma stepped into a corridor that seemed unusually clinical. A nurse appeared almost immediately, checking her clipboard with brisk efficiency. "Emma Rodriguez?" "Yes, that's me." "Perfect. Right this way, please." The nurse led her through a series of doors, asking questions that seemed oddly specific about her cycle, her health history, details Emma answered honestly, assuming these were standard protocols. When they reached a preparation room, the nurse handed her a hospital gown. "Change into this, please. You can secure your belongings in the locker." Emma complied without question, trusting the medical process. Once changed, she was led to a procedure room filled with equipment that made her nervous, though she couldn't articulate why. "Just relax, Miss Rodriguez. This will only take a few minutes." The procedure was quick and uncomfortable. Emma felt invasive pressure, clinical touches that made her tense, but she trusted she was simply completing her baseline testing. Within 40 minutes, she was dressed and leaving the clinic, believing she had finished routine fertility screening. She stopped at her favorite cafe on the way home, treating herself to a chai latte and a blueberry muffin, completely unaware that her entire life had just been irrevocably altered. Meanwhile, across town in an exclusive private wing of the same facility, Alexander Hunt sat in a leather chair, his expression composed but tense. At 38, he had built a tech empire worth billions through innovation and calculated risk-taking. His tailored navy suit probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. He'd arrived through a private entrance, maintaining the discretion he demanded in all aspects of his life. Alexander had made his decision months ago. He wanted an heir to inherit everything he'd built, but he refused to risk another relationship. His ex-fiancée had sold intimate details to tabloids after their breakup, turning his private life into public spectacle. The relationship before that had involved a woman who'd lied about birth control, attempting to trap him. He was finished with partners who saw dollar signs instead of the person behind them. Surrogacy seemed like the perfect solution, clinical, controlled, free from emotional manipulation. He could have a child without the messy complications of romantic entanglement. "All finished, Mr. Hunt," the doctor said professionally. "We'll contact you when the surrogate is ready for the next phase." Alexander nodded curtly and left through the private exit, sliding into his black Range Rover. His mind was already moving to afternoon meetings, 3 acquisitions to finalize, a conference call with international investors. The clinic visit was simply another task completed. 2 weeks passed. Emma returned to her normal routine of teaching energetic 5-year-olds, planning spring activities, and organizing a school fundraiser. She felt unusually tired, attributing it to the long hours and changing weather. Then her phone rang during lunch break. "Hello, is this Emma Rodriguez?" The voice was female, professional, and strained. "Speaking. This is Dr. Patterson from Pacific Fertility Center. I need you to come in immediately." There's been a critical situation regarding your recent visit. Emma's stomach dropped. A situation? What kind of situation? Did my tests show something serious? I'd rather explain in person, Miss Rodriguez. How soon can you be here? The urgency in the doctor's voice sent panic coursing through Emma's body. I can leave right now. Please, is this about cancer? Just come as quickly as you can. Ask for me at the third-floor reception. Emma grabbed her purse and practically ran from the school, barely remembering to tell her principal about the emergency. Her mind raced through terrifying possibilities during the entire drive to the clinic. Dr. Patterson was waiting with 2 other staff members and a woman in a business suit who introduced herself as the clinic's legal counsel. The room felt suffocating. Miss Rodriguez, please sit down. Dr. Patterson's voice was gentle but grave. Just tell me what's wrong, Emma whispered, gripping the chair arms. There was a catastrophic error during your visit 2 weeks ago. Due to a mix-up in patient files and procedural protocols, you were sent to the wrong department. Instead of your fertility screening, you were mistakenly given an artificial insemination procedure intended for a surrogate patient. The words didn't register at first. Emma stared at the doctor, waiting for clarification that would make sense. I don't understand. Artificial insemination? That's impossible. I'm afraid it happened. And there's more difficult news. Dr. Patterson's voice cracked slightly. The procedure was successful. You're pregnant, Miss Rodriguez. The room tilted. Emma gripped the chair, feeling like she might vomit or pass out or both. No. No, you're lying. This is some kind of sick joke. I wish it were. The pregnancy has been confirmed through multiple tests. We're absolutely certain. But I've never, Emma's voice broke as tears began streaming down her face. I've never been with anyone. I was waiting. I was saving that for marriage, for someone special, and you're telling me I'm pregnant? The legal counsel shifted uncomfortably. Dr. Patterson reached out, but Emma recoiled. How could this happen? How could you people be so incompetent? There was a failure at multiple levels. Wrong patient file, wrong procedures. We take full responsibility and are prepared to discuss compensation. Compensation? Emma laughed bitterly through her sobs. You think money fixes this? You've stolen something from me I can never get back. You've violated me in the worst possible way. At that moment, there was a sharp knock. Alexander Hunt entered, his expression thunderous. He'd received the same urgent call, pulling him from a board meeting. His attorney followed closely behind. Someone better explain immediately why I've been summoned here, Alexander demanded. Then he noticed Emma's tear-stained face, her obvious devastation. His anger faltered slightly. What's going on? Dr. Patterson stood. Mr. Hunt, thank you for coming. Please sit down. This involves you directly. I'm fine standing. Talk. The doctor explained the situation again. Alexander's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and rage within seconds. You used my genetic material on a random stranger? Are you people completely insane? It was an unforgivable series of errors, Mr. Hunt. Alexander turned to look at Emma properly for the first time. She was young, simply dressed in a floral teaching dress, and looked absolutely shattered. Something in her expression made his automatic assumptions pause. This wasn't a woman who looked like she'd schemed anything. This was someone whose entire world had just collapsed. And you are? He asked, his voice slightly less harsh. Emma Rodriguez, she whispered. I just came for fertility testing. I didn't want any of this. Neither did I, Alexander responded, then caught himself. He looked back at the doctor. What are the options here? That's something you and Miss Rodriguez will need to discuss. We're offering full medical support, counseling, and covering all expenses related to the pregnancy. Emma stood abruptly. I need to leave. I can't breathe in here. She rushed from the room. Alexander watched her go, feeling an unexpected pull of something he couldn't name. This woman's life had been destroyed just as much as his plans had been derailed. She hadn't chosen this. Neither had he. But she looked completely devastated in a way that made his chest tighten uncomfortably. He turned back to the doctor, his voice cold and controlled. I want every document related to this disaster. I want to know exactly how this happened. And I need contact information for Miss Rodriguez. We need to talk away from this place. Of course, Mr. Hunt. Alexander left the conference room and found Emma outside, leaning against the building with her face in her hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. He approached slowly, completely unsure what to say. For once in his life, his usual confidence felt utterly useless. Miss Rodriguez. She looked up at him with red, swollen eyes, mascara streaked down her cheeks. I'm Alexander Hunt. I think we need to talk. The coffee shop Alexander chose was quiet and upscale, the kind of place where conversations happened in hushed tones over artisanal lattes. Emma felt completely out of place in her teaching dress decorated with cartoon apples, surrounded by sleek professionals in designer clothes. Alexander sat across from her, his posture rigid, hands folded on the marble table. Neither had touched their drinks. I don't know how to start this conversation, Alexander admitted, his voice low. Neither do I, Emma replied, staring at the untouched cappuccino. This feels like a nightmare I can't wake up from. I understand you're angry. I am too. Emma looked up at him, really seeing him for the first time beyond the shock. He was handsome in that polished, intimidating way successful men often were, dark hair with touches of gray at the temples, sharp jawline, intense brown eyes that seemed to calculate everything. But there was something else there too, something tired and guarded. Why were you at the clinic? She asked suddenly. Why were you doing that procedure? Alexander was silent for a moment, debating how much to reveal. I wanted a child. An heir. But I didn't want the complications of a relationship. You mean you didn't want to deal with an actual woman, Emma said, her voice sharp. I've been used and manipulated enough times to be cautious, he said defensively. Women see my bank account before they see me. And I'm supposed to feel sorry for the rich man with trust issues? Emma's eyes flashed. At least you made a choice. I had everything decided for me. They violated me, and now I'm carrying a stranger's child. Alexander flinched. You're right. I'm sorry. That was insensitive. They sat in uncomfortable silence. A barista called out an order in the background. Outside, people walked past the windows, living their normal, uncomplicated lives. What do you do, Emma? Alexander asked, trying to find neutral ground. I'm a kindergarten teacher. I work at Riverside Elementary. Do you like it? I love it. The kids are honest and creative and full of joy. I help shape their first experiences with learning. She paused, fresh tears threatening. My life was simple before this. Simple and good. Simple can be valuable, Alexander said quietly. It was valuable, she corrected, past tense heavy in the air. Alexander nodded slowly. I know this doesn't fix anything, but I want to help. Financially, I mean. Medical bills, whatever you need. I don't want your money, Emma said quickly. I know it's not about money, but practical matters exist whether we like it or not. Let me at least cover the medical expenses. It's my responsibility too. Emma wanted to refuse, but her teacher's salary couldn't handle pregnancy costs. Pride wouldn't pay for prenatal care. Fine, but that's all. Can we meet again to talk more? Alexander asked. I think we need to figure out how this is going to work. Emma hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but somewhere less fancy. There's a diner near the school. Tomorrow at 6. I'll be there. Over the next 3 weeks, they met 7 times. Each conversation started awkwardly, then gradually eased. Emma learned that Alexander had built his company from a small startup, working 18-hour days for years. He had a younger sister he rarely saw because work consumed everything. He couldn't cook but loved classic films and had a secret weakness for terrible puns. Alexander discovered that Emma had lost her father to cancer when she was 15, that her mother had worked double shifts to put her through college. She volunteered at an animal shelter, believed in handwritten thank you notes, and had read Charlotte's Web to her class so many times she could recite it from memory. They were completely different. Yet something was forming between them, not attraction exactly, but understanding. Two people thrown together by chaos, trying to make sense of it. The first ultrasound appointment arrived on a gray Tuesday morning. Emma had asked if Alexander wanted to come. He'd cleared his entire schedule without hesitation. In the examination room, Emma lay on the table, her shirt pulled up to expose her still flat stomach. Alexander stood beside her, unsure where to put his hands or look. The technician applied cold gel and moved the transducer across Emma's skin. Then they heard it, the rapid flutter of a heartbeat, impossibly fast and undeniably real. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Alexander reached out instinctively and took her hand. She didn't pull away. On the screen, a tiny form appeared, barely recognizable but unmistakably alive. Everything looks healthy, the technician said cheerfully. Would you like pictures? Yes, they said simultaneously, then looked at each other in surprise. Walking to the parking lot afterward, neither spoke. Alexander held the ultrasound photos, staring at them like they held answers to questions he hadn't known to ask. That was real, Emma said softly. Very real, Alexander agreed. How are you feeling? Scared, overwhelmed, but also. She paused, searching for the right word. Connected to this little person. Does that sound crazy? No. I felt it too. He looked at her. Emma, I know this started in the worst possible way, but that's my child too. Our child. I want to be involved. Really involved, not just writing checks. What does that mean? I don't know yet, but I want to figure it out with you. Something shifted in Emma's chest. This wasn't the cold businessman from the clinic anymore. This was someone genuinely trying. Okay, she said. We'll figure it out together. Alexander insisted on meeting Emma's mother. The dinner was tense, held in the small house where Emma had grown up. Mrs. Rodriguez was a strong woman with graying hair and eyes that missed nothing. She served enchiladas and suspicion in equal measure. So you're the man whose mistake got my daughter pregnant, she said bluntly over dinner. Mama, Emma protested. It's okay, Alexander said. She has every right to be protective. Mrs. Rodriguez, I know how this looks, but I'm not trying to buy my way out of responsibility. I care about Emma, and I'm going to be there for this child. Caring and staying are different things, Mr. Hunt. Rich men have walked away from worse situations. I'm not walking away. Mrs. Rodriguez studied him for a long moment. Time will tell. By dessert, the tension had eased. Alexander asked about Emma's childhood, listened attentively to stories, and helped clear dishes despite protests. When he left, Mrs. Rodriguez pulled Emma aside. He's trying, Mija. I'll give him that. But be careful. Don't let the situation or the money blind you to who he really is. I know, Mama. I'm being careful. But was she? Because lately, Emma found herself thinking about Alexander constantly. The way he remembered small details she'd mentioned, how he'd started texting good morning every day, the protective way he positioned himself between her and crowds. Alexander invited Emma to his penthouse the following week. She'd been curious about where he lived, though part of her dreaded seeing the vast difference in their worlds. The space was stunning but cold, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern furniture that looked more artistic than comfortable. Everything was pristine, untouched, like a magazine spread. "Your home is beautiful," Emma said, walking to the windows. "It's just a place," Alexander replied. "It never felt like a home. Just where I sleep between work." "That's sad." "Is it?" He joined her at the window. "I never thought about it before." They ordered dinner from a local restaurant, eating at the massive dining table Alexander admitted he rarely used. Emma talked about a student who'd insisted dinosaurs still existed in the forest behind the school. Alexander laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his usually serious face. "You love your job," he observed. "I do. It's not glamorous or high-paying, but it matters. I help shape who these kids become." As the evening progressed, they moved to the living room. Emma curled up on the couch while Alexander sat nearby, closer than in previous meetings but still maintaining respectful distance. "Can I ask you something personal?" Emma said. "Of course. Why do you work so hard? You have more money than you could ever spend. What are you trying to prove?" Alexander was quiet for a long moment. "My father lost everything when I was young. Bad investments, trusting the wrong partners. We went from comfortable to struggling overnight. I watched it destroy him. I swore I'd never be vulnerable like that, never let anyone take what I built." "So you built walls instead?" "Yes. Very high ones. Doesn't that get lonely?" Alexander looked at her, really looked at her. "Terribly lonely. But safe." "Maybe safe isn't always better," Emma said softly. Something passed between them, an understanding that went deeper than words. Alexander reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he took her hand. "I'm glad this happened," he said. "Not the mistake, not the circumstances, but meeting you. Getting to know you." "Alexander." "I mean it, Emma. You're nothing like what I expected. You're genuine and kind, and you see people for who they are, not what they have." Before Emma could respond, her hand moved to her stomach. "Oh. What? What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I think I felt the baby move. Just a flutter." Alexander's eyes widened. "Can I?" Emma nodded, guiding his hand to her stomach. They sat in silence, waiting. Then it happened again, a tiny movement beneath his palm. "That's incredible," Alexander whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "That's our baby." "Our baby," Emma echoed, and suddenly it felt real in a way it hadn't before. They looked at each other, faces inches apart, both breathing slightly faster. Alexander lifted his free hand to cup her cheek. "Emma, I'm falling for you. I've been fighting it, telling myself it's just the situation, but I can't anymore. You make me want to tear down those walls, to be vulnerable, to trust again." "I'm falling for you too," Emma admitted. "It terrifies me." "We can be terrified together," he murmured, echoing words he'd said before. Their lips met softly, tentatively at first, then with growing passion. Emma's hands moved to his shoulders, then into his hair. Alexander pulled her closer, careful of her growing belly, kissing her like she was precious and necessary. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. "Stay tonight," Alexander said. "Not because you have to. Because I want you to. Because I want to hold you and wake up with you and show you how much you mean to me." Emma searched his face and found only sincerity and desire and something deeper, genuine love. "Yes," she whispered. "I want to stay." That night, they came together not as strangers bound by accident, but as two people choosing each other freely. Alexander was infinitely gentle and patient, showing Emma the tenderness and respect she'd always dreamed her first time would hold. He worshipped her changing body, made her feel beautiful and cherished, gave her the choice that had been stolen from her. It was emotional and beautiful, erasing the clinical violation with an act of genuine love and connection. Afterward, lying tangled together, Emma felt tears on her cheeks, but these were tears of joy, not grief. "Thank you," she whispered against his chest. "For what?" "For giving me this. The choice, the love. Everything I thought was taken from me, you've given back in a different way." Alexander kissed her forehead. "Thank you for taking a chance on me. For seeing past my walls and believing I could be better." 2 months later, Emma's small apartment had become impractical as her pregnancy progressed. Climbing stairs left her breathless, and she could barely move around without bumping into furniture. Alexander had been suggesting she move in with him for weeks. One evening, after she'd struggled with grocery bags up 3 flights of stairs, Emma finally called him. Within 2 days, movers were transferring her belongings to his penthouse. Alexander cleared an entire walk-in closet for her clothes and books, converted his unused office into a nursery planning room, and made sure she had her own space whenever she needed it. "This doesn't mean I'm dependent on you," Emma said as she unpacked books onto newly installed shelves. "I know," Alexander replied, hanging up her dresses carefully. "You're one of the most independent people I've ever met. This is practical, and I like having you here." "I like being here too," she admitted, looking around at what was becoming their shared space. Alexander smiled, pulling her into a gentle embrace, his hands resting on her rounded belly. "You make it feel like a home." Life settled into a new rhythm. Alexander still worked long hours but came home for dinner every night. Emma continued teaching part-time, her students fascinated by her growing belly. They attended prenatal classes, Alexander taking notes seriously while Emma tried not to laugh at his intense concentration during breathing exercises. One evening, as they sat together reviewing baby name books, Alexander closed his and set it aside. "Emma, I need to ask you something important." She looked up, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "What is it?" He slid off the couch, kneeling beside her. From his pocket, he produced a small velvet box. Emma's breath caught. "I know how we started was wrong. I know we didn't choose each other in any conventional way. But Emma Rodriguez, I choose you now. I choose you every day. I love your kindness, your strength, the way you see the good in people. I love how you've made me believe in things I thought I'd lost forever. Will you marry me?" He opened the box, revealing a simple but stunning diamond ring, elegant and classic, just like Emma herself. Tears streamed down her face. "Alexander, are you sure? You don't have to do this just because of the baby." "I'm not doing this because of the baby. I'm doing this because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Because you're the best thing that's ever happened to me, even if it took the worst circumstances to bring us together." "Yes," Emma whispered, then louder. "Yes, I'll marry you." Alexander slipped the ring onto her finger, then kissed her deeply. When they pulled apart, both were crying and laughing simultaneously. "I want to do this right," Alexander said. "I want to marry you before the baby comes. Nothing huge, just our families and close friends. What do you think?" "I think that sounds perfect." They planned a small ceremony for the following month, before Emma would be too uncomfortable. The wedding took place in a botanical garden, intimate and beautiful. Mrs. Rodriguez cried through the entire ceremony. Alexander's sister flew in from Boston.